to make the move to mobile learning and micro-learning in particular, I think some of the customers we talk to are concerned about the legacy LMS systems and the perhaps aged IT infrastructures they have in place, and they see that as a barrier to move towards micro-learning and mobile delivery. They want to do it, they know there's a demand for it.
Everything you do on a mobile is mediated by AI. Google search, if you do social media, your Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, it's all mediated by AI. Buy a book on Amazon, AI. Watch Netflix, AI. Accept learning. That's funny. Well, hold on a minute. Well, what happened there? Why are we not doing this? Because of all the areas of human endeavour that would benefit from it, learning is the one that would benefit most.
The one that resonates with us a lot, I mean, partly because of where we are in the space, is trying to make sense of a lot of learning content. So a common client case for us is that they have a lot of valuable content, some less valuable content mixed in there. It's in a learning management system or across several, and they're really struggling to sort of surface the stuff that they know is in there and get it to the right learners.
AI is, like, as you said earlier, it's an idiot savant. So the savant bit's a bit stupid, but it's very good at very narrow things. So like making content. It's actually very good at making certain types of basic content. It's very good at face recognition, so you can use that. It's very good at speech recognition, so we can use voice. We can start to cherry pick here. We don't have to do what Google or Amazon do. We're not creating the biggest retailer in the world. All we're doing is creating a course or a bit of learning. So as long as you cherry pick the right bits, you could do well here.
People are used to online training and e-learning, but many of the philosophies that underpin that, of course, are classroom-based, centrally pushed training. Really, these models, of course, have existed for decades and decades. Moving it online is one thing, but I think today technology can do so much more than that. And with digital, you know, we're starting to see much more interest in just-in-time training. Performance support, I think, is an area that digital can really start to excel in.
People are looking for much more of a blended approach these days, taking bespoke content, catalogue content, very light touch LMS, but being able to surface that to users in the workflow for performance support.
The balance is moving away from sort of the very formal, abstracted sort of learning experiences that people have when they sit in a training room, through to something that's much more at the point of need.
People are talking a lot about behaviour change, so how to really effectively drive behaviour change and how to do that through digital learning. We're increasingly being asked about learner engagement. It seems to be difficult at the moment to engage a whole workforce.
We talk about campaigning, something we've learned from the advertising industry. People don't tend to change their behaviour based on a one hit of communication or learning. You need to be thinking in terms of campaigns. So that's delivering a consistent and timed campaign of learning pieces, of communication pieces, reinforcing that with workplace nudges and prompts and things like that. And micro-learning is really powerful for that.
We are at the point now where customers can take on board AI-driven micro-learning and performance support technologies, right? So we're doing it with our customers. So I think what's next is making sure those artificial intelligence deployments are actually really engaging for users. Because you can deploy an AI solution, but if you or I as a user don't want to use it because it's boring or it doesn't converse with us naturally, we won't use it. So really the trick next is all about user experience.
There's a massive gap between the typical UX that is provided by a corporate learning solution and the UX that people are used to every day, using apps on their phones, etc. That gap has to close.
Producing content is an intensely time-consuming process. You have to design this thing right, you have to produce it, you have to check it. If you do it right, you go through many cycles during the course of which you get input from people. All that time could be spent doing other things, in particular working with the rest of the organisation to understand what's important.
All very well creating environments and content platforms that provide very unique and sexy looking learning, but it's all about how you engage the managers and the leaders to help drive constant behaviour change.
Increasing the velocity and the quantum of learning just increases the velocity and quantum of learning. It doesn't actually build a learning culture. But you start with building trust. You can't have a learning culture if everyone is looking around and going, whoa, I don't trust them. You can have massive amounts of individual learning, but if you don't collaborate and share and build, you don't get a learning culture. And thirdly, you need places to share, physical, virtual. If everyone is isolated in their own little world, don't get a learning culture. Those organisations that have got a strong learning culture have got a really strong purpose. Everyone comes to work believing in what the organisation's trying to do. When you've got those 4 things in place, learning emerges.
Attitudes towards siloed thinking. This is learning and development, this is HR, this is talent and succession planning. That is clearly something that the high-performing teams are starting to remove those silos. And we're thinking first and foremost about the individual, about the customer, about the employee, about the volunteer, about someone in the extended enterprise. And how do we make their experience of being part of our organisation seamless? It's not about our labels. And letting go of our labels, I think, and our preconceived ideas about what we're doing, rather than putting the customer first, I think is a really significant area.
How to measure effectiveness, what the best way to evaluate learning is, and then showing the return on investment from that.
There are so many significant changes that are happening in industries, and if you look back probably over the last 10 years, there are names that used to be commonplace: Kodak, Blockbuster Video. No, Blockbuster had, I think it was about 3 or 4 opportunities to buy Netflix. And this is why transformation, thinking about how you apply innovative technologies to your business, is so important, because you're not keeping pace with any history. And I think that's the same for learning departments.
Being agile as well is one of the things that one of the models we've been looking at. It's the agility of somebody to respond quickly to whoever they consider their customer to be. In the same way as business needs to be doing that, L&D departments need to be very agile.
Given the trade-off between producing content and having a strategic impact, I think we should choose the strategic impact every time. Unfortunately, too often we don't, very often because we're kept too busy producing content by managers who demand courses which are not necessary, also because we don't have an easy entry into the strategic conversation. So I'm not saying it's easy, but I do believe that key challenge for L&D needs to be overcome. Grab more time to be strategic, and the best way to do it is by not producing so much content.